Chapter 4, continuing to read on my Amazon Kindle, the cover that comes with it. I'm reading Chapter 4, Myrtle's Ultimate Mystery, continuing. Where do we go from here? Lost in thought along with Jean, I cupped my cool hands around the warm tea mug. Rand's characters are either potently strong or painfully weak. Readers probably identify with the weak ones, then feel embarrassed, wanting to be the stronger, heroic characters instead. Few people have the absolute integrity that Rand's heroes portray. Yet, in honestly identifying with both the strengths and weaknesses of her characters, Rand's readers are given the opportunity to grow toward that integrity. Still, the emotional confusion has likely put off some readers. One of my own problems with Rand's novels is that you're either a good guy or a bad guy in her books. There's no middle ground. What might have been made clearer is that a weak person with truly good intentions towards self-evolution is a good person, as long as he is making effort toward a higher understanding and action. There are days, though, when I'm soul-tired and facing death in some close-to-home form that I wonder, is it really all that important to be constantly striving to be better? Some days I want to take a break and just be. Just be me in all my spontaneous, ridiculous, tragic glory. What I bubble is what I be, take it or leave it. At that moment, as if drawn by a lodestone, focus was lifted away from my silent analysis and out into the cinnamon-laden warmth of the restaurant. A tall, lithe man in a well-pressed gray suit was walking toward our table, gazing head-on at me. His blue-gray eyes were clear, strong, and direct. Hans, of course. Shocked abruptly out of clouds of thought, Jean's head jerked aside as she noticed Hans standing a couple feet away from the table's edge. "Oh, Hans, there you are. Yes." Looking down at her lady's gold and steel Rolex, she noted, 2:30 exactly. Turning toward an unoccupied table, Hans reached to a high-backed, fabric-padded chair. Placing it by our table, he paused with a long-fingered, gracefully strong hand wrapped casually over the chair back. By this time, Jean and I were up to manner. "Do please join us, Hans. Would you like to order something?" Jean brushed the sleeve of Hans' jacket with delicately placed fingertips. "Actually, the airborne cinnamon is appealing," Hans smiled warmly. The waitress, pleasantly compelled to the strong presence which was Hans, The waitress, pleasantly compelled to the strong presence which was Hans, there were only a couple tables occupied, other than ours by this time, arrived with a steaming mug of tea in hand. "How did she?" I questioned. Laughing musically, the waitress pointed to the mug and answered, "He asked the hostess for it when he came in." "Oh," Jean and I concluded, jointly exposing tremendous insight. To myself, I noted, the man knows a good thing when he smells it, and gets what he wants in a hurry. Jean frowned. "You seem awfully chipper, Hans, for having lost your favorite person in the universe." Hans breathed a deep, lengthy sigh, then sipped his tea. "I suppose I should be more concerned," he agreed. "It's just that Ruth is so self-sufficient, so indomitable. I can't believe anything could happen which she couldn't control or make right." He turned in my direction. "You've probably assumed I'm Myrtle Drinkwater." I smiled and reached toward him in greeting. After giving my hand a warm, firm shake, he leaned back into his chair. Have you uncovered anything about Ruth's situation? Studying Hans, collecting my thoughts to answer, I remembered another piece of the horary chart research last evening. I had been wondering if Ruth was in danger. She was shown in a beneficial aspect with Mars and Saturn, normally the two most hostile planets in horary. But in this chart, these two bad rep malefics seem to indicate a guardian, or protector who was gentle and compassionate, being in the sign of Pisces, but who was also possibly trained in martial arts, indicated by a cooperating Saturn and Mars. Saturn ruled the house of Ruth's partner, who wasn't a husband since she had never married. Mars ruled the house of her father, protector, her life's work or destiny. Mars and Saturn were in her house of death and rebirth. Why am I here type questions. In other words, this guardian partner was working, or playing, with Ruth to answer some of the big life questions. Staring into my mug, I took a collect yourself breath, then addressed Hans's question. As I was mentioning to Jean, the situation appears to be dealing with 2.5 years of issues. Turning the table spontaneously, unintentionally, I put him on the spot. Do you remember anything Ruth said or did of significance last November 8th? Hans narrowed his eyes, and his gaze seemed to drift. November 8th, he repeated, possibly buying time to evaluate his response. Yes, I confirmed. No, he seemed to hedge. Not right off. He exaggerated a confused face. Why is that date significant? It comes up on my horary chart as the starting point of events relating to Ruth's disappearance. Hans lifted his mug to his mouth, taking a slow sip. How does that figure with the 2.5 year time frame? That was the beginning point. The culmination of the situation occurs around May Day 1996. Since she didn't disappear November 8th, I assume that we could find her before the 2-year time frame, but that the issues extend through that time? Yes, you assume right. Honestly, I can't find anything in the chart to worry overly about. Now, why did I pop out with that? I could get myself into a lovely lawsuit if Ruth ended up murdered. I had murder on the brain, you know, since I was supposed to be writing a murder mystery for the Bantam contract. As much as experience as I've had with horary charts being right, limited only by the interpreter, I still tend to doubt, especially when a person has disappeared, is 94 years old, wealthy, and has worried relatives. Chagrined by my automatic outpop, I lifted my mug and drained the last bit of tepid liquid. What makes you say Ruth isn't in danger? Hans eyed me with a perceptive gaze. Recalling more of the study last evening, I remembered that the only potential harm to Ruth might come from the last 2 aspects of the moon, the one having been described with Moon square Mercury. Let's see how much time. 9 minutes. Okay, I better wrap up. Okay, the other, maybe the most potentially dangerous, was an opposition to Pluto of transformation and death in its own sign of Scorpio, and retrograde no less. Okay, I think that's a good point. We'll pause reading again. Come back tomorrow, well, whenever. And here's where we are on Amazon Kindle. And hope to see you again. Good night.